Everybody likes to say that they're buyer-centric, but when push comes to shove and you actually look at how people sell their stuff online, the truth usually reveals a different story. I'm Kyle Racki, CEO of Proposify, and I've been running a business for the past 15 plus years since I was 24, and Proposify for the last 10 years. And so what I like to do is just share some of the lessons that I learned across product, marketing, sales, everything that I've learned running a business. When I was looking at and evaluating new product and analytics software last year, I went through a buying process where I looked at all the different players that were on the market and looked at their websites and signed up for demos. And I realized that they were doing stuff that we were doing at our company, Proposify, which is completely flies in the face of everything that you say is buyer-centric. So one of these things is getting people to sort of put themselves in a bucket for how big their company is, right? Like, I remember one of them was signed up to, the smallest choice was 1 to 250 employees. Like, that was like, I could have been a one person founder or have 250 people at my company. That was one choice. You know, you could say, oh, well, they're basically showing you that they're an enterprise tool. So they work with much bigger companies and you're on the smaller end if you're 250 or less. What ended up happening was, like, we're somewhere in the middle. We're a 65 person company. Immediately after filling out that form, got basically just like a pre-recorded demo. It's one of those things that it's when you request a demo on a website, and that's how they set up the expectations, but you just get a pre-recorded one, feels totally disregarded, right? Like, feels like they don't want your business, you're too small for them. And I realized we were doing the exact same thing, right? Because we were saying, hey, you can only get a demo if you have 10 or more sales reps on your team. Last year, I read an email that was written by Kyle Poyer, and he was interviewing Jessica Gill-Martin, who was the CRO and CMO at Calendly. She basically lays out their whole approach to how they handle demos at Calendly, which is, they have very small users and they have enterprise users and they have, somewhere in between. This was eye-opening for me because I realized that we designed essentially a one-size-fits-all approach to our buyers. And this is kind of a similar experience that Calendly had, I think, at a much greater scale. Was sometimes you're a small customer and you want a little bit of hand-holding or you want to reach out and talk to somebody. And when you get dismissed, like the example I gave, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And at the same time, sometimes larger companies, they do just want to try it themselves. They do just want to kick the tires. They don't want to talk to somebody, and they're used to having sales reps and people kind of always in their face wanting to set up calls, and you can't do anything without booking a call. So they basically split it into 3 different buckets, which was support-led assist, velocity, and enterprise or commercial. And we were so inspired by this, we actually adopted it for Proposify. So we kind of created these systems so that instead of just having our sales team talked only to the leads of a certain size, we have like commercial reps who speak to the bigger ones, but we also have a velocity team. So our velocity sales reps are for those smaller deals that they might want a demo, they might need 30 minutes to talk through the product, but they don't need necessarily as long or complex a buying process as some of the bigger companies. And then for really small customers who maybe just have a question, they just want to talk to somebody for 5 minutes and ask a question, we have the support-led sales motion. And so doing this actually just creates such a more buyer-centric, if we want to talk about being buyer-centric, this actually is. Because instead of having a one-size-fits-all approach, you're adapting to what does that customer need. And we also did this with product demos on our site. So we bought a tool called Novatic, which is a great product. Not paying me to say this, it's check it out. And what it does is you can capture your product, your whole user interface, put on guided tours and put that right on your public website. So somebody can actually click around your app without needing to sign up for a trial or demo. And a couple of years ago, this would be unthinkable. People would never do this. But I mean, how often are people signing up for trials for things just to kind of take a quick look and they're not even serious about buying them? Right? So this enables them to do that without then getting hounded by sales reps and getting put into onboarding drip sequences because they're not really in market to buy it. They're just curious and they're just kicking tires. And so I think we're seeing this huge shift now towards putting demos on your website without needing to talk to anybody. We're seeing this shift because we are going in a more buyer-centric place. I guess the question to ask you is, are you adopting this? Are you keeping up? Are you going this way? Or are you sort of still gating pricing on your site? Are you still gating, being able to talk to somebody if you're not big enough? Yeah, so pricing is another avenue for this. People are always curious about how much does it cost? What are your plans like? And especially with enterprise software, historically always gate the pricing. It's always talk to sales. We're not going to tell you what the pricing is. But we are seeing more of a shift to putting your pricing on your website. And even like agencies or consultancies or sort of higher price services can start doing this type of thing. Even if they're not putting their pricing on their website itself, even just how do you do it in your proposals? So we have a customer who uses Proposify, and they're great, so I don't mind calling them out, Vario Video. They're a YouTube agency, so they're helping us with this type of stuff. One of the things that really struck me when they sent us a Proposify proposal was how much they're using all of the optional fees. And they really had all of their services split out. The costs were clear, and they let us just choose whatever service they wanted. And that's actually quite different. Like when you look at a lot of agencies, they almost always force you into an upfront strategic engagement. That's can be anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000 or more. And that's what I was so used to. That's what I was expecting to see of like, oh, we can't do anything for you until we do this like massive, 6-week strategy session that costs X amount. And they didn't do that. They basically just said like, hey, looks like you have the strategy down. You guys know what you want to do. Just choose a la carte what services that you want us to help you with. And that is another way that you can be way more buyer-centric. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. I share advice just like this in my newsletter, Inside Proposify. You can get it by clicking the link down below.